Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. First of all, you don't have to join the Chamber of Commerce in America. Everything's voluntary. And when things are voluntary, they get sloppy. The second thing is he said when he got tougher. It's going to be consistent across the board. There's only a couple of people you're going to hear were started tough. Okay? Everybody else, as Margot said, I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be a pleaser. Like you guys. Not just you, but everybody that comes here. The next thing that was, he said a lot of important things, but the most important was the fact that 4 employees or more. You don't want to waste your time if it's a single proprietorship. In other words, one guy and his dog or one guy and his secretary. I mean, you want a business that can function after the seller, and when we talk about the model and utilizing it, you want them to stay between 6 and 12 months. The motivated seller, 6 and 12 months. And we'll differentiate what's the difference between why 6 months and 12 months. Now, we've had guys buy businesses, you want the guy out of the company in 6 hours because he's such a pain in the ass. Or his wife is such a pain in the ass because she keeps coming into the business as if they still owned it. And see, you guys won't tell the fat cunt to get out. And I say that, some of you look at me, you won't. I guarantee it. Where I take the old bitch and throw her out on her flabby ass. Literally. You won't do that. So the model has had to be modified for the cunt mentality or the spineless cunt mentality we currently have. Back in the old days, like I'm a hammer closer. I mean, the rumors and legend, I have choked people. I have put pens in hands and signed after they died. I've had people die at the closing. I will neither confirm nor deny whether any of those are true, but that's the reputation I have. And especially in Europe, my reputation precedes me. When I say, if you tell me you're going to buy this motherfucker, you're going to buy this motherfucker. If you didn't want to sell it, then you shouldn't have told me, asshole, that you're going to sell it. Another thing he says, now this is pre-Corona. He's still closing deals, but he's too busy to talk to us right now. He always went to see him. I said just before we put him on that you've got to go to see the property, even in the Corona era. You cannot buy a pig in a poke. You have to go. And that's normally when you're doing your final due diligence. Normally due diligence is made over more than one trip. But in this particular case, in the environment, certain parts of the world you just can't get to. You better get to them. Because don't tell me QLA doesn't work because you bought something that you didn't go see. None of your directors were interested enough to go look at the asset. Then you bought a pig. You've got to go see it under any circumstance. That's why Thomas is in California right now doing his Corona era due diligence. And not all of your board members are going to be willing to travel around. But the final meeting, which is you walking the property, you should walk, especially now if you made 8 acquisitions like Thomas already has, you know what you're looking for. But on your first acquisition, you want probably your industry expert and one other. You don't bring your chairman out because Corona's not going to be forever. You don't drag your old chairman out for bullshit. You only drag your chairman out when, something's gone wrong, sideways. Then you bring the old gal or the old guy out with the big guns. But most of what he's described so far is all Skype and Zoom and whatever those other things are called. Okay. The other point he made is he's an organized guy. He comes from project management. So some of you have already discounted what he said because you don't know anything about project management. So that's your excuse not to do it. I've been doing this a long time. I could see in your eyes. I was going to cut that part out. But as soon as he said, I'm used to big project management, the expression, the muscles in your face sagged. Because you don't have that experience. You look for every single thing. Now, when a good-looking girl walks in the room, how long does it take you to figure out she's a good-looking bitch? Instantaneous, right? When a good-looking guy walks in the room, how long does it take you to know he's a handsome guy or not? Immediately. Well, this is no fucking different. This is no different. You don't think, well, she's too good looking for me, or maybe some of you do. I always thought that's a new set of panties I'm going to get in hold of. That's how I looked at it. Another one to strike down and put a notch in my fucking belt. I didn't even go through the calculus of whether she liked me or not. Well, I didn't go through the calculus whether she was attracted to me. I went through the calculus, fuck, I can't get too many more notches on my belt now. I got too many. Back in those days, there was a thing going around, not the internet, that the male organs could only produce between 30 and 35,000 orgasms. 30 and 35,000. I went to doctors because I was worried about running out. 30 or 35,000, not 3 or 500. So I've always taken a positive attitude. If it's there, I can do it. And I've only been around, when I had the choice of who I could be around, which was almost since I got out of school, I hung around, not hung, but I exposed myself to high-performance people that didn't know, like Elon or Steve Jobs, that didn't know that you couldn't do it. Another comment he made, which is worthwhile, remember he has different funnels. He's got a sales funnel, he's got a banking funnel, he's got a potential seller funnel, and even if they said, call me back in a year, he called them back in a month. I used to call him back in a week. One of the questions that is going to come up, how often is too often to hound these people for an answer? There's different ways of saying it. Does everybody understand what I just said? I call them, in some cases, I talk to them at 8 in the morning, then I call them at 5 in the afternoon. That same day. Never did I go more than 72 hours. Never. Time is money. We can get money back, but we can't get time back. Now, nobody in this room is even remotely as old as I am, but you're running out of runway. You're running out of runway. And for those of you that are young kids, 20, 21, don't let anybody tell you you're young, you got plenty of time. You tell those people to fuck off, especially if it's your parents. Fuck you. Do I want to turn out like you, Mom? Do I want to turn out like you, Dad? But nobody, no, you're all going, you're full of shit. Nobody's going to do that. That's why I'm here and you're there. We have a double Harvard Hall of Famer, double degree Harvard, which doesn't mean shit, but he happened to get 2 degrees from Harvard, who says, infamously, Mr. Peña says things we don't even dare to think in the inner recesses of our mind, which is true. And I've always had a big mouth, and I've gotten a lot of trouble for it. A lot of trouble. But again, I'm here and you're there. So how has your program worked out? It hasn't, has it? By the time I was the average age of this group, I was already rich. Okay, now questions about Frank. Or comments. Yes, sir. Well, no, he makes one offer, calls them back after a week, and they say yes or no, and he's gone. Yes, if they say yes, then he's on them like stink on shit. No, forget about it. I learned a long time ago, how many of you are married? Are you ever going to change your in-laws' opinion? Never. Never going to happen, will it? Well, I learned a long time So don't waste time on things you can't change. And my wife's mother likes me now. She's got dementia. She forgot it. She hates me. I'm not lying about that. That's the only, she forgot she hates me. She's got dementia. It's not that like I trick fucked her or something. You know, last time we saw her, I mean, she was so nice to me. I said, Sally, what the fuck? And it dawned on me as I'm saying the words, she doesn't know who I am. There's no way my mother-in-law is ever going to like me. I had a chance to drown her 14 years ago. That's my fourth regret in life. I could have got away with it slicker than shit. And I didn't take it. And I told Sally then, I'm going to regret this fucking time. And boy, was I right. I mean, it would have been the perfect fucking crime. And for the once, I didn't have the balls to do it. But if I ever get another chance, you can you can give your ass to God, because I would. And now Corona, she's in the fucking home and I can't get my fingers around her throat. Okay, what else about Frank? Yes, sir. He's at his peak, he was doing 2 acquisitions a week. Acquisition, you already heard, he hired a general man. Now I think he's got 3 managers. The area of the Netherlands. See, the board's easy. The finance is easy. Buying the business is relatively easy, but running them is a fucker. The kids falter because they're afraid to ask their board for senior management expertise, advice, because you're afraid that they're going to think you're a moron. They already know you're a moron, so you're not hiding anything from them. You're a moron that came to them with a good idea. Full stop. Full stop. That's it. And that's why if you stumble and you stutter, well, fuck, the kid can't do it, so we'll take it from him. And that's what happens. And the system, the way it's built up, is giving you the highest probability of getting across the goal line. But after you have the LOIs, and when we talk about the structure of LOIs and buying the companies, you've still got to get past the first board meeting, where you incorporate, you form NewCo and make it into something. In Germany, a GmbH or whatever, in this country, PLC, and in America, Subchapter S, a C Corp, limited liability company, whatever. It doesn't matter what kind of company it is. You got to get past that. Because at that meeting is where you make the share distribution. And that's where the board votes and blesses you, anoints you, to give you permission to go out and spend 0 to whatever millions of dollars. But you got to get to that point. And the way the system is set up is to give you the highest probability of getting beyond that first board meeting. This system, based on, because the first meeting you have, and normally you have drinks. The board meeting is at 1 o'clock, and you have met individually with the board members, and I go through this in detail. But then after the board meeting, and you're having drinks and dinner, it may even come up. They'll say to themselves, when the guys go to take a piss, you go to take a piss. Well, you guys are pissers anyway. But I mean, you go take a piss with them. You don't want to leave these sons of bitches alone for 5 microseconds. It's like the French Connection, a drug deal. I mean, when you're an undercover cop, you want to be at every fucking meeting. You're an undercover moron. And you want to hide that you're stupid as long as you can, humanly possible. Now, even if Thomas is stupid, I mean, he's done 8 deals, 12, nobody gives a shit now. Now he's the next Elon Musk. But they're not going to mistake you for Elon Musk. I can't even say it without laughing. I guarantee it. And the reason I spend so much time on this, because it's critically important. Because then when you get thrown out, you go on Reddit and say QLA doesn't work. And you don't say because I'm a big, whining bitch cunt that had no balls. If you put that on Reddit, then God bless you. But that's not what you put, is it? You just said it didn't fucking work. Or it doesn't work for a black man or a China person. What? Because you cannot take responsibility in defeat. You can't take responsibility for anything because you've never taken responsibility. Your leadership skills will be 1,000 times better even if you fail with QLA. What else about Frank? Yes, sir. If you studied anything, we start with seller finance and work down. 100% seller finance. And if they tell you, go fuck yourself, and they say, adios, motherfucker. First time any of you say, adios, motherfucker, please email Kim and tell me. I'm still waiting 27 years for that email from anybody. Adios, motherfucker. You sound tough, or you want to sound tough in an academic environment like this, but you're not. What else about Frank? Yes, sir, in the back. 500,000. Well, now he's 5, 6, 7 million. But he started 400,000 or 500,000. And I haven't gone through it, but since you brought it up, like the little obnoxious Israeli that you are, you start 3 to 600,000, 6 to 1,200,000, 1,200,000 to 1,800,000, 1,800,000 to 2.5, 2.5 to 4. And by the time you've done 6 or 8 deals, you will have accumulated between $10 and $15 million in top line and $2 to $4 million in EBITDA, free cash flow, of which you will own, roughly speaking, 2/3. If you follow the format and how to distribute equity to your board. And I like you to err on the long, just like I want you to err on the, not brevity, on the long side of writing the homework. I want you to err on the long side of board members. You will be reluctant to have a lot of board members because that you think that that's equity out of your pocket. Well, right now you got 100% of nothing, don't you? And what's that worth? I can't help but laugh, but anyway, what? So I would rather you have 4 industry experts, 4 lawyers and accountants. Because right now you got nothing. You have 100% of fuck all. And somehow you scrape the pennies to get, I'm happy for you. You should be congratulated. Plus you went to, I assume that when you go on quarantine, you got to pay for it, right? Then the government's not paying for your hotel, right? Okay, well then I congratulate you. That's a new layer. And I'm sure some people are saying, well, I can't do that. I can't get enough time for work. I don't have the money yet. Whatever, that's fine. But you would think that would reduce our numbers, but it hasn't. It has enhanced. Because all the little pea brains like you think, well, fuck, if I can get in now, I'm not interested in what your thought process is. Believe me, I'm just surmising. If I can get in now, before the whoosh, as Sally would say, the whoosh, I'm going to be better off, and you will be. The unfortunate thing is that Corona is going to last a lot longer than we think. You should pray, or the world should pray, that Dan's wrong about this. And I'm rarely wrong. I'm rarely wrong. Just like I predicted the scrap metal. And when I talk to some of my buddies, and I don't have too many, they say, why is, that was the first thing I thought about when I saw about cruise ships. This is a guy I've known a long time. And he says, are we the only ones that think like this, that they're going to have to scrap? Yes, Walt, we're the only ones that think like this. And they're going to have to scrap planes, too. I told Sally we may go back into the ownership of a jet, which is no way humanly possible you can justify the cost of a big plane by yourself. None. Zero. But if they're giving them away, somebody called me with a Lear 65, had 900 hours in the way you judge a plane, how many hours they have on the engines. And the last time they were retrofitted. Had like 190 hours on the engines, just retrofitted, for a couple $1 million. I mean, fuck! You can't buy the fucking tires for that. And it came with 2 pilots. I like 2 pilot planes. I don't believe in this shit, 1 pilot. I've had friends of mine go down with 1 pilot. Everybody's dead. I like 2 pilot planes because I've had a lot of planes. And there's nothing in the world that compares when you bank your plane over and the martini doesn't fall out, and centrifugal force keeps the olives and the liquid in the glass. I mean, there's nothing like it. Nothing like a blowjob when they're doing that same thing. Because then the sperm float. Anyway, that's a whole other. And all those stories of sex, drugs, and rock and roll are true. They're absolutely fucking true. What else about Frank? He said, yes, sir. Correct. Now, you got to understand, if I buy his business 100% seller finance, and I buy his business 100% seller finance, and I buy your business 100% seller finance, and then I go to a bank to finance it, it is not a refinance because you've never had a commercial lender in the deal. Does everybody understand that? So technically speaking, it's not a refinance. Thereby, the old myth, you've got to run the business 3 years, 3 months before you can come back for money is bullshit. Because you have never used commercial debt, as they say in Europe. You've only used seller finance debt. So he said while he was doing the deals, he was at the banks financing it. So they closed the next week on the refinance, and I think the deal he alluded to, he refinanced it for 200% or double what he paid. So then the question is, what you have to do, you don't have to do anything. One of the questions is, okay, what is my relationship, or how am I going to react vis-a-vis paying back the seller's note? Because you're going to have all the money plus 100%. So you could pay back 1, 2, 3 seller finance, 100%. And keep the overfinance for yourself and your directors, etc. So what do? Well, and we'll talk more about it later in the week, but you cannot have a prepayment penalty clause in your seller finance. Now, see, you're writing that down, because even the meatheads, YouTube, even the fucking morons here figured out that was important. You get that, Baldy? You got it? Okay. Even in Israel, which is the lowest form of life, because there is no rule of law in Israel unless you're a Jew living there. So now, what are you going to do? Are you going to pay back the seller's finance notes depending on your agreements? And that's why, even though I say you can do a seller finance deal in a day or two, you got to do it properly, and the lawyers have to represent you properly. And you don't want to do a deal that the other side doesn't have a lawyer. Because then they can go to court, and they're very easily, you can own the business 3 fucking years. And a little old lady from Pasadena comes to court and say, he took advantage of me, he did this, he did that. Not sexually, but I mean, he took advantage of me. And the court can undo the transaction. So you want the other side to be represented. Even though they tell you, well, let your lawyer do it. No, you want their lawyer to sign off. Everybody understand that? It's really important because I've seen deals undone, unfortunately, because they didn't listen to that. Because they were, see, if T. Boone Pickens told me about 35 years ago, God rest his soul, he just passed away too. Danny, if you want to do a bad deal, if you want to do a deal bad enough, you'll do a bad deal. And he's right, boy. When you're sucking on the tailpipe and you got no money and they repossessing your cars and you're living in the basement of your mother, I mean, you get desperate. You think you're desperate now. No, that's more desperate. That's more desperate. And you can easily pull out money. But if you don't ask for seller finance, you won't get seller finance. In the infamous words of Bruce the Whipple, if you don't ask, you don't get. And he's right about that. But Bruce is at the polished end of the QLA continuum. I'm at the hammer. I want results yesterday. Any questions about Frank? Yes, sir. Well, I mean, for the seller finance, once the board gives you approval to go out and get them, hunt them down like dogs and shoot them in the street, you get that permission. Then you're not overfinancing because you seller finance. But when you then come back 3 weeks or 3 months later and want to finance them commercially, the board will already given you parameters by which you can do a deal or not. But those will be approved at that board meeting. It will be approved at that board meeting. And your board members will understand this infinitely better than you. But seller finance will be a new item for them. Most of the guys and gals that you're going to have on board meetings have never done a seller finance deal. Yet, almost everybody in the world, in the civilized world, understands no money down house buying, house flipping. It's been around since World War II. No money down. You take the house, you fix it up, you rent it out, and then you pay them out of the cash flow of the rent from the house. No money down house. Everybody understand that? Okay. Well, this is no money down company buying. It's no different. Except, I used to say $50,000, but you can't buy it. Well, in bumfuck Oklahoma, you can still buy a house for $50,000. But you can't buy a house for, peanuts now. An average house in Southern California in the ghetto, the barrio, is $500,000-$600,000. But it's nothing more than no money down house buying. But you're not going to flip it right away. You will exit someday, but you're not going to exit then. So this concept's been around a long, long, long time, since right after World War II. And it's as our daughter said when she first came to the seminar, I think she was 12 years old, she said, "This is easy peasy, Daddy. Why do the adults make it so difficult?" And I said, "Kelly, because they have no balls." She giggled. It's the same. That was 22 years ago. It hasn't changed in 22 years. Most kids that come through the seminar wouldn't last till their 15th birthday where I came from. Yeah, you had somebody's hand was up. Yes, sir. Yeah, but that's all. You're getting ahead of yourself. Don't. Almost all, and that's why you keep them there 6 months so they don't steal everything. That and to introduce you to the customers that they had. They will, and when we teach you how to split up the finance, which isn't come till tomorrow, all that, the most important thing is for you to get a chairman. All the rest is bullshit. And And again, LinkedIn is a charm. I mean, and back in the day, I mean, there was no LinkedIn, and yet the kids were producing billions. There were no templates. There were no slides. There was nothing. As Dan Locke, who came here about a year ago, back again, he said, all you did is, he says, kick my Chinese ass out the door and told me to go fuck myself, which is almost literally what I told him, almost. And the guy, but now it's, and Dan also said when he was here, says, you know, other than going and doing the deal for these kids, Dan, you're handing it to them on a silver platter. I know, Dan, but they don't look at it that way. Because I met Dan in 2003. He flew from Vancouver to Los Angeles to meet. He had been trying to meet me for 6 months or so, and I met him. And he was he's short, still short, pudgy, pimples on his face. He was 23 years old. He looked like he was wearing his father's suit. I say he doesn't wear socks now. He doesn't wear socks because the socks that I met him with had holes in them. And now look at him. When he came back, then he came to the seminar in about 2010-ish, and then he came back a year or so ago. And Whipple, you know, when Whipple came to the seminar, 2010-ish, I guess, they don't believe. They don't believe that how feeble humanity has gotten. And the more I give you, the more you want. Unfortunately, the more I give you, the more you're capable of doing on your own. And that's the other reason, one of the other reasons that we did away with the mentor program. Not just because it wasn't as effective as it should have been. Some of the people, because we had a year mentor program to begin with, thought that they had a year to do a deal. And we had a plethora of deals from about 10 and a half months to 12 months. I mean, it was like migrating wildebeests in Africa towards the goal line. And of course now, you know, they're doing deals in a lot less time. Anything else for Frank? Yes, sir. Is he brain dead, or is there an echo in the room? What did I just say? Okay. Okay, that's a statement, not a question. He's quick enough. Dementia hasn't set in fully, so he's quick enough to stumble, get back on his feet. So now what's the question? What? No! You never skip the DD. Because due diligence is a euphemism for knocking the price down. Only once in 50 years have I seen the price go up after due diligence. Once. And on average, the due diligence, the post-due diligence price is anywhere from 5 to 25% lower. Because you're going to find shit that's wrong. Because all sellers lie by not sins of commission, but sins of omission. That's what they don't tell you, or they don't show you, and that an experienced team will find. It's not like buying a used car that you have a 5-year warranty on, you know, and then you can take it back. Once you walk out the door and you sign the papers, unless it's a seller finance, you're fucked. Seller finance, you always have the ability to yank their chain because you just stop making payments. We're going to reduce the price by this $500,000 that it's going to cost me to fix what you forgot to tell me. Now, the downside of seller finance is if you default, they can foreclose and take the business back. And you say, fine, take it. And they never do. Well, they almost never do. Because they don't want the fucking business back. They were lucky to find a schmuck like you to sell it to. Anything else? Okay, YouTube, thank you.